Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for attending this session. I know it's summertime and
Yeah.
probably nice warm weather right now, but I appreciate you sitting behind your device and watching this. So, I'm an English language fellow. This is a program that's sponsored by the U.S. Department of State, and I am living in Tennessee, which is the state in the red. And I actually live in a town called Martin, Tennessee. It's a town of 10,000 people, and it is in the northwest corner. So where you see that T, that's where I live. So today, this is the fourth of 5 sessions, and we will be talking about TOEFL prep and the writing. The content is a little bit more dense than it has been in the past weeks, but I think this section is probably, for some people, maybe the most difficult and maybe the most stressful. So that's why I will be spending a little bit more time on the information than in the past. Oh, I made a mistake. It should say TOEFL writing, not TOEFL reading, but TOEFL writing. So the IBT TOEFL, and this might be the test most of you will take. There's integrated, which will be 20 minutes, and then independent writing, which is 30. Oh man, I need to. And then the paper-based TOEFL, sometimes they have a writing and sometimes they do not. And if there is a writing on the paper-based test, it is just 30 minutes. Again, I apologize for these typos. So, IBT TOEFL, this is what we're mostly going to be talking about today, is the preparation for the IBT TOEFL test, the writing section. So first we will talk about the integrated writing, and then we'll talk a little bit about the independent writing. And we will spend most of our time on integrated writing because it's a little bit more technical than the independent passage. So integrated means you will have a passage to read and you will be given 3 minutes to read that. Then you will listen to a short lecture of 2 minutes, usually the opposing viewpoint. Then you will have the remainder of the time to write. Usually you will write a summary about those two things. And they say about 100 to 250 words. The independent writing is the writing task that you were probably been practicing for a while. Is they give you a question and then you have 30 minutes to answer it. And usually it's an opinion-based question, such as do you agree or disagree? Do you support or oppose? It's an opinion-based question. In both scenarios, they are more academic-based. So first, let's talk about the integrated writing. So first of all, as I said, there's the reading for 3 minutes, then the listening, and then the writing. So it's important to take notes. It will go by very quickly. So first of all, read and understand the main ideas of the reading. And as you're writing, you will have the passage. You can look at that while you're taking the test, but you will have 3 minutes at first to read it. So find the main ideas. Usually there are 3 of them with supporting information. The lecture usually mirrors those main ideas, of course, in the opposite viewpoint. So if you identify the main ideas in the reading, the lecture will follow a similar format. So then, after you hit the reading, you finish that for 3 minutes, you will have the lecture for 2 minutes. You will only hear it once. And so that's why it's important to take notes during that lecture. And then finally, organize your response. So in this case, of course, write complete sentence and paragraphs. Use transitions and really focus on word choice and work on synonyms. Don't repeat yourself and so on. And at the end of this, we will do a practice of the integrated writing. So, what can you do to practice for the integrated writing other than doing the practice exercises? So, first, build your vocabulary, but really focus on transition words. Of course, first, second, third, but think of moreover, thereafter, etc. And synonyms. I know even as a native speaker, when we write, sometimes it's easy to repeat, use the same word over and over. So it's important to learn some synonyms so that you do not repeat. Another tip would be to read 2 articles on the same topic, and then you can compare the 2 in writing. So that's how to practice. Finally, the other practice tip would be to read an article on a topic. So find something on print or online, and then find an audio or video about that, and then you can compare. And of course, there is a lot of practice materials on the Padlet. I posted a lot of references and materials for this. So, independent writing. So, independent writing, 30 minutes. ETS recommends about 300 words around. 300 words is a good response. And the writing usually asks for an opinion. So here are some example questions. Do you agree or disagree with the following? A teacher's ability to relate well with students is more important than excellent knowledge of the subject being taught. That's one example. Another example is, some people like to travel with a companion. Other people prefer to travel alone. Which do you prefer? Okay, so when you're organizing these essays, so you have these and you need to pick a side. First of all, you cannot say, do not do both. Pick one side. And then organize by deciding your reasons or main ideas. I recommend at 3. 2 very strong ones, but 3 is recommended. So think of 3 main ideas. And then give examples for each subpoint. So maybe you have practiced the 5-paragraph essay where you have the introduction, main point 1, main point 2, main point 3, conclusion. And that's the model for these essays. So how are these graded? That's always the next question. So and so they're graded in 3 areas. And also in the Padlet, I posted the rubric that ETS, which is the company that makes the test, that they use for their grading. So first they look at development. So how well is the topic addressed? So do you answer the question? And then what's supporting information? So do you have the main ideas, main idea 1, 2, 3? So that's important. Then they look at organization. So use paragraphs and make sure you have an introduction and conclusion, and uses transitions. But also, most importantly, use the essay stays on topic. And then finally, language use. They look at sentence structure, word choice, and vocabulary. And I know you're thinking, oh no, my grammar, my grammar. And the grammar is a component, but it's not major. It's they're looking for if the other points first. It's okay if there's some grammar mistakes, but if the grammar mistakes detract from the meaning, then it will be reduced points. Okay. So, um, so it's each essay is worth 5 points, which doesn't seem that much, but that's just how it is. And it is called a holistic grading system. So as I said, it's there's not a point for grammar. There's not a point for organization. It's as a whole, does the essay is the essay organized? Does it make sense? Does it stay on topic? Is it understandable? That's holistic. And it is graded by AI, so artificial intelligence. Then it goes to a human TOEFL certified grader. So there are people that do read them. And I know this might be a concern for some people, but there is a human that does read them. And here is this is also in the Padlet, the rubric. So I'm just showing this over here. These are the rubrics. This is how you will be graded. So for example here, so I won't read all of this because there's so many words, but the independent writing rubric. So these are your points, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 points is that effectively addresses the topic and task. So you answer the question. Is organized, displays unity, progression, and is together, and displays consistent facility in the use of language. So, Rodin, do you have a question? Let's take a
Yeah,
break here, and if people can ask questions before I move on.
yes, I just want to clarify what is the purpose to grade the task with the artificial intelligence? I mean, why they do it first? Is there any purpose?
Um, I don't know because I don't know that side of the thing. And might just be recommendation. Maybe AI looks at. I honestly don't know. I've never graded a TOEFL test on the other end, but it might be for. I have no idea. I'm sorry. That's an excellent question, but I don't have the answer to that. But I do know humans do read it because I know people that do read these tests.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Any other questions? And this also has a rubric for the integrated writing. And so we're going to practice our integrated writing a little bit. Okay. So again, this is on the Padlet. I know you can spend more time reading there, but for example, 5, a response at this level successfully selects the important information from the lecture and coherently and accurately presents this information in relation to the relevant information presented in the reading. The response is well organized, and occasional language errors that are present do not result in inaccurate or imprecise presentation of content or connections. So both of these essays really focus on how you develop and explain the idea, and then the grammar and the language is the last component. Okay. And again, this is on the Padlet that you can get right there. Okay, so let's do some practice. Um, So first of all, I'm going to show you, and we're going to practice as is. So this, let's see if I can make this. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see here. We will have 3 minutes. I'm going to time you on my phone to do this reading, just like you would at the TOEFL test. Okay, so you may begin, and you have 3 minutes. Okay, time's up. That was a little bit more than 3 minutes. So next, let's do the listening. And again, this link is posted on the Padlet as well.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the topic you just read about.
Can you hear that?
Ongoing investigations have shown that predation is the most likely cause of the sea otter decline after all. First, there is a lack of dead sea otters washing up on Alaskan beaches, which is not what you would expect from infections caused by pollution killing them off. However, the fact that dead sea otters are seldom found supports the predator hypothesis. If a predator kills an otter, then it is eaten right away and can't wash up on shore. Second, orcas prefer to hunt whales, but whales have essentially disappeared in that area due to human hunters. Since the whales are not as available, orcas have had to change their diet to what is available. Since it is only smaller sea animals available, the orcas have probably started hunting those more, and created the decline in all of the species mentioned in the passage. And finally, predation is a more likely reason for the uneven pattern of otter decline. Otters in locations that are more accessible to orcas are more likely to be hunted. This is supported by the stable population of otters in shallow rocky locations where orcas can't access.
Okay. All right. So, and then the question is, summarize the point. I'm going to show this back. Is summarize the point made in the lecture and explain how the speaker cast doubt on specific points made in the reading passage. Okay, so in the actual test scenario, you would have the rest of the 30 minutes to answer this, and you would, of course, type this. So also think about, is typing, if you're a good typer or not, because if you're not a good typer, maybe that is something you will need to practice as well. So what we're going to do now is I want you in your, let me post this link in the chat box so that way you can practice, you can look at this. Okay, so in the chat box, I posted a link to the writing exercise. And next, we will put you in breakout rooms for a while. And in these rooms, I want you to discuss this question, the integrated writing question. So I want you to, and the question is, summarize the point made in the lecture and explain how the speaker cast doubt on specific points made in the reading passage. So discuss that and the main points. And then once you're done with that, then discuss how you would organize this writing question. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? A teacher's ability to relate well with students is more important than excellent knowledge of the subject being taught. Use specific reasons and examples to support your answer. And then finally discuss what was challenging for you. I will put this in the chat as well. Okay, I think as people are coming in the chat box, I post, here is the link to the Padlet with the resources, or you can use this QR code. And this is the Padlet, and if you go here, you have, we posted week 1, 2, 3, 4, and this week is week 4 about the writing. So that's where I have official TOEFL test prep questions with examples, the rubric, tips on how to practice, essay structure, how to write the essay structure, and integrated writing practice. in my previous group, I was telling them that this test is written by Americans and it's used, I mean, not just for American purposes, but so it's also written in the American style of writing. And so typically the American style is when we have our introduction, we explain point 1, 2, 3, main point 1, 2, 3, paragraph, details, main point, details, explain, details, explain, details, then conclusion, repeat the points, then finish. So American process is very functional. Maybe, and that's probably different than the way you write in Kazakhstan. So in your first language. So keep in mind this is written like an American style. Okay, so what questions do you have?
Okay, Caroline, someone was asking me in the session room that where can I get study tips for writing part? And you just said that we can find it on the Padlet, right?
Yes.
So please just follow the link, and here you will find lots of resources from Caroline. And also you can, if you need any other tips for any other parts of the exam, you can rewatch our sessions. It's on YouTube channel. Kazakhstan, what was it called? American Corner Networks Kazakhstan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and there was also a question, Caroline, about writing part. Someone asked if they should write the essay from the third person or from the first person.
Well, it's an opinion, so you should write it in first person.
Okay. So
that's what they are expecting. Mm-hmm.
For example, in the first task, in the first assignment, when we were analyzing what we read and what we listened to, here we don't use any, we just say in the text says, and according
That's
to
correct,
listening,
yep.
And the problem is, yes, okay.
Yes, because it's a summary.
In my opinion, we don't use it.
No, and that will probably give you reduced points because that's not answering the question because it is a summary.
Mm-hmm.
The integrated task is always a summary of some sort.
Excuse me, we should write as the text says or as the speaker says?
You need to include both in the integrated writing.
Mm-hmm.
So what the text said and the speaker, and often they're opposite, so you need to include both points.
Also, I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the teachers that prepare for any this kind of exams like IELTS or TOEFL, they give you some kind of structure with cliche phrases. And I was thinking, is it okay to use cliche phrases, or you should not use them? You should avoid them.
I think it's okay, but you have to know the context. Memorizing phrases, and if you use them incorrectly, then you will get reduced points. So it's as long as you know what they are and how to use them, but they are not necessary, because if you use them incorrectly, then you will you will lose points.
So it's actually okay to write something like, in this essay I will discuss, or to sum up, blah,
yes,
blah, blah.
Yes, those transitions are very helpful if they are used correctly.
So I remind you guys that you can type your question in the chat box, or just raise your hands and turn on your mic. Yes, Rajan, you can turn on your mic.
Well, I want to ask about the punctuations, like commas, the periods in the essay, and I think it's important in the writing part, because I've heard that examinators also look for the correct usage of the commas, for example, and so on, dashes. And do you know anything about it?
I don't know exactly, but as I said, if the punctuation and comma usage takes away from the meaning and understanding, then it will be reduced points. So if there are no punctuation or no commas, well then that's reduced points. But if they are used appropriately, and there might be some mistakes, but if the meaning is still understood, then that's okay. Because it is not a grammar and mechanic test. It is writing about meaning and understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline, excuse me, is it the same Padlet which you showed us on the previous lesson?
Yes, and I've been adding to it every week.
Okay, thank you.
And Caroline, when we
Mhm.
had our first session, I think we've been discussing speaking parts, and you said that it's okay to use British words, but what about spelling in the writing part? Is it okay to use British spelling?
As long as you're consistent. So if you use,
Oh, I see. Mhm.
so make sure you use the same type of spelling throughout the whole essay.
Mhm.
But if you mix it up, it might be too confusing. But be consistent. That's
And
the
it's the
only
same with
advice.
the speaking, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Why is it considered a big mistake and the points are reduced if the spelling is mixed, but I'm not like changing the meaning or
Again, I don't think. I mean, there's only 5 points, so it's not going to be a whole point that you're reducing. But just in general writing practice, be consistent in your spelling. So choose. I mean, you're taught British English, so I think most of you are spelling in the British style anyways. So you will not get reduced points. And again, it's the meaning is there, but just in general reference, be consistent in your spelling.
I think it matters a lot because they just won't know if you're making a mistake or you're choosing just different type of
Yeah,
spelling. That's
right.
why you should be consistent.
Yep. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Yes, we have like 5 minutes left. So if you have any questions, write it down.
Excuse me. May I ask you how I could train my listening? I want to train to improve my listening skills. So, for example, when I see American movies, I watch American movies with subtitles. But when I turn off subtitles, I cannot understand what about they speak. So, um, so how I could improve maybe my skill, for example, my skills to understand in American speech.
Okay, so on the Padlet, if you go to week 2, I posted many resources for listening practice, not just for listening for the test, but just in general. There are links there to just practice in general listening. So I refer you to that. But and as far as practice, find something interesting you like to learn about or you like to listen to, and then just practice listening to that. So such as podcasts, TV shows are good. So you're doing great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Oh, there's one more question. In reading, when you gave the text, some words were underlined and they were in another color. In the text, during the test, do we also have this?
No, that was just for practice.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. That would be very easy.
Caroline, we have question in chat box. Is it okay to use some slangs in speaking?
We'll talk more about speaking next week. In general, I'm not sure what type of slang words you're using. Try to keep it understandable because not everyone knows slang. And even in the US, slang is regional. So I would steer away from it.
Thank you.
Okay. And according to your mind, how do you think which section would be the most difficult for us, for foreigners?
I don't know. I think the opinion piece, because the summarizing, you have the information, you just need to summarize it. The opinion, if you get a question that is maybe a question you don't feel strongly about or have an opinion, that can be really difficult. But that's just my experience. And some people might find the summarizing difficult and the opinion question, the independent writing.
But for the native speakers, writing is also the most important and the most difficult stuff.
Yes.
Writing, it seems to me that it's too difficult.
Yes, writing is hard. Yeah, and the organization, native speakers, I've worked with American college students, and their organization is sometimes out of control. So it's hard for everybody, and it's a learned process. So you just have to
teach them how to organize actually this.
Right. It's not a native speaker and non-native speaker. You have to learn how to write this style. Everyone needs to learn.
Thanks.
Great. Any other questions?
I really have noticed that most people have lower scores from writing part.
Yes.
Really. And as Caroline has already said that like Americans write in their own way and we Kazakhstani people write in our own way. That's why it's very difficult actually.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's the hardest part. Just keep in mind this test is written for the American style of writing. So you have to learn how that's done.
For me, writing is the hardest one.
It is hard.
Yeah.
I also think that writing is hard because we used to we're using lots of smartphone with the function that help us to write words in correct way, and when you write and there is no correction, you if you feel not the best.
Well, turn that function off.
But it's so convenient. That's an excellent point, Rodion. That's an excellent point, and that's my issue when I learn languages too. Is the texting. I'm like, oh, that's the word I need. Okay, and then I actually don't write the entire word.
Which language do you speak? Do you speak Russian or?
I learned Japanese, and right now I'm studying Italian on the language app. But Japanese.
Japanese. Why do you need actually to learn Japanese?
I lived in Japan for 5 years, so.
You taught there English, yeah? You were a teacher.
Yes. So I needed Japanese to live every day.
And right now you are going to live in Italy?
No.
No?
I'm just studying it because I hopefully will be traveling to Italy in the fall for 2 weeks.
Have you got vaccinated? Or already vaccinated?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I'm working with students in the U.S. that will be going to Italy for the fall semester, for the whole semester. So that's why. But, well, it's 8. Yeah, it's time.
Dear participants, thank you for joining us, for your participation. Dear Caroline, thank you for your given practice, and because this practice was very useful, and this exercises. Dear participants, let's meet in next Wednesday at the same time at 7 p.m. by Nur-Sultan time. It will be the last session. And I would like to remind you about our weekly thematic events, which you can find in our social pages, Facebook, Instagram pages. Every time you can find something interesting for you. Okay, that's all from our side. Be safe, stay safe.
You too.
Let's
Thank
meet
you very
next
much.
week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Dina, can you please stay here for a minute? Aleta and you too. She was asking what is our official channel name. I forgot it. Was it American Corners
American
Kazakhstan?
Corners Kazakhstan channel, yeah.
Right? Okay. You can see there all of the recordings, Alessia.
American
From
Corner,
all-
Kazakhstan.
Yeah,
American
from
Corners Kazakhstan.
Yes, from all Kazakhstan, because there are 10 American Corners.
So there are a lot of American Corners. I can find.
No. One
No,
channel
but
for all of
one
us.
channel for 10 corners, yeah.
Okay.
All our events, the records you can find in there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
See you next.
you. See you.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.